So the second question that we have here is, how did you cope? How did you cope with mind overload? It says this: I want to know everything. Everything I hear and see, I have to go home and look it up and write it in a pad so that I can fully understand literally every illness, wound, dressing, medication I can think of. But it's hurting my brain now and I simply can't do it. I know not everyone knows everything, but I want to know everything. I want to be able to offer advice to my patients and put them at ease that I know what I'm talking about. Was anyone else the same? Have you any tips on how to research things and make them stick? Any tips would be appreciated. Okay, cool. So, great question indeed. I personally have gone through this very, very experience. When you decide and find an area, so I believe that every single one of us has an area of gifting. Every single person on this planet has an area where we thrive. It's our home. It feels like we're in our place. It feels like we found where we belong, right? When you've found that area, and it takes a little while. Some people get it straight away. Some people, they need to actually experience life before that is activated, right? And when you found that, what it does is it gives you, now the first thing that it gives you is it gives you an unbelievable amount of passion. And look, you get energy that most people don't operate on. So you will be able to go and go and go and go and go, and people don't understand why you're able to go and go and go and go. They don't get it. They're like, how do you have so much energy? How are you so passionate? How are you so driven? I can't even be asked to get up on Monday and you're just like ready to go and you're always full of energy. When you find the area which you're supposed to function, you will have more energy than other people. It just, I don't know why. God has made it like that, right? It's like taking a seed and then putting it in the right soil. If you take a seed and you put it on your windowsill and you leave it there for 5, 6, 7 years, nothing will happen to it. But if you take it and you put it in nutrients, you put it in soil, all of a sudden it comes into its own. Does that make sense? And that's what happens when you found your gifting, your area of gifting. Clearly you have. And it sounds like you've done it at a very young age, which is unbelievable. Most people don't find their area of gifting until they're like 40, 50, 60. Because usually they have to get through so much mental problems, expectations, how am I going to make money from it? Do you see what there's so many things that they have to overcome before they even get to it. So I'm so glad that you've done it. Second thing that I would share with you is, when you find your gifting, and you will tend to find this, if you're like me and you, where we have what I call an extremist mentality. I have a temperament where I'm all or nothing, right? If I'm going to be with you, I'm with you all, or I'm not with you at all. If I'm going to research something, if I'm going to do something, I want to be the best at it. I'm all or nothing. I'm like extreme. When you are people like us, one of the things that you have to be careful is that you have to know when to... your vice and the thing that you are going to have the most difficulties with isn't succeeding. The most difficulties you're going to have is actually reining yourself back. That right there is actually where you're going to have to do most of your development work. It isn't going to be in succeeding. People won't need to motivate you. People won't need to push you. If you need to get up at 4, you get up at 4. If you need to study for 10 years, you will study for 10 years. You're not somebody who has to be motivated. You already are driven. But the area where you're going to need actually to work the most is at reining yourself back in. Reining yourself back in. Okay, you've got to determine, when have I gone too far, right? When, for example, one of the areas that I have to look at is, I've consumed and I've read so much and I have so much information to give people, but I have to know when is appropriate to give it. So for example, I know that really, if you want to change your life, you have got to be brutally honest with yourself. I mean, you have to actually reveal yourself to you. I have to know when to tell that to people. Because if I tell that to somebody at the wrong time, it's just going to make them even more depressed. Because they're going to start looking at themselves and they're going to start saying, well, I'm not enough and I'm lacking this and I'm so far behind. So I have to determine when is right to use it. So here's what I would share with you. One of the highest acts of being a human being is to achieve wisdom, or rather to pursue wisdom. So my suggestion to you is start going down the track of seeking wisdom. Now, if you don't even know what that word means, that tells you you haven't even begun your journey yet. Because wisdom is all about, okay, you have power, but when should you use it? With whom should you use it with? Because that's the thing that you are having problems with. You have so much power, so much knowledge, but you don't know how to channel it. You don't know where to put it. You don't know how to utilize it. The other thing that I would share with you, which is really, really, really important, and I only learned this because I've had to study what happens when people go down the dark side of life, is that every person who has committed the biggest atrocities throughout history has been in the pursuit for ultimate power. Ultimate power means absolute knowledge of everything, absolute control of everything. I recently put up a clip on my Instagram, and I showed these clips of recently I went to watch Wonder Woman, and when I watched Wonder Woman, the guy who was corrupt the most is the guy who wanted to become the actual, if you've seen the film, you'll know what I mean. But when you are the person who wishes for ultimate power, think of the film Aladdin. The bad guy wanted to actually become the genie itself, to have so much power that he can just influence everything and control everything. Part of becoming wise, as you will find, is that nobody can know everything. Nobody can have you shouldn't have absolute control. You shouldn't have absolute power. Part of life is loss. Part of life is things being outside of your control. Part of life is defeat, right? You can't have success without failure. You cannot have good without bad. And if you're trying to control everything, then it means you're trying to tamper with stuff that isn't really within your area of domain to be tampering with. There are some things that just are. Some people are going to die. You can try your absolute best and know everything, but it isn't your place to try and step over the boundaries of people's lives. If you see what I'm saying, you will learn all this stuff anyway as you go along. But I would share with you, really go down that path of wisdom, really look at wisdom and how that's affecting you and how much you're learning of that. The other thing that I would share with you, which is what you said on researching things, is don't stop research. Keep going, right? Have you got any tips on researching things? And also, here's the other tip that I wanted to give you. When you start researching things, don't just research your area of gifting. You want to become a holistic person. Because part of wisdom, which is what you're lacking right now, and is why you've got so much knowledge but you don't know what to do with it, is because you're not a holistic kind of person yet. You haven't refined that version of yourself. So you should be really doing research on communication, marketing, on men, on women, on success, on failure, on lifestyle, on sales. You should be looking at children, the next generation, leadership, fatherhood, what it means to be a man. Because you see, when you have all of this now, it gives you a different view of the world. It gives you options as to know when should I use this, with whom should I use this information, where should I take it. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm kind of showing you and stepping you in the right direction, but really the area where you need to be going, and is where I'm trying to point you, is you need to go towards the area of wisdom. That's where you want to be heading towards, because that's where you're going to find many of the answers that you're seeking. So I hope that helps you out.